All right, it's 10 o'clock. We will see if folks continue to join us for a few minutes, but thanks to y'all for being on. We have a few folks joining us from the Farm to School Conference Planning Committee. So lots of voices here to answer questions that you have about this proposal application process and maybe broader questions about the conference. I'm Chelsea Christ, and I'm a Farm to School coordinator with the Iowa State Extension Local Foods Program. And part of my role is planning and organizing the content for our conference that's coming up. So I'm really excited to launch this process and hear questions from y'all and roll out a really organized and thorough process for making sure our workshops are the best this year. So I'm going to share some slides here. Let's see. Click on this and then share. And, okay. All right. Here we go. So I'm just going to go through some slides to give a little bit of an overview of the conference, this RFP process, a little snapshot of what our conference looked like last year as far as the workshops and breakout sessions went. And then we'll have plenty of time for questions at the end. And this webinar is being recorded so that we can share it with folks who weren't able to join live today. So first off, here's a little save the date. This will be released real soon to the public and would love for y'all to share it really broadly. But the Farm to School Conference will take place June 21st and 22nd at Central College in Pella, Iowa. And we're really excited to work with our partners there who are so graciously hosting us and setting us up for a really, really successful event already. So June 21st will be a full conference day with an evening social, and that will be the day when the breakout sessions take place. And then the second day, which is a Saturday, June 22nd, will organize several options for field trips around the Pella area, as well as some 5-hour intensives for continuing education credits around outdoor education for teachers. We're looking to line up a track for food service staff and food service directors around procurement. So more to come on that, but hoping folks will stick with us for 2 days down there this year. So I wanted to start off here with the Farm to School Network statement on racial and social equity in Farm to School and the work that we do. This is the center of how and why we do Farm to School as a network in Iowa, and this will be a priority that we're looking for participants to share in applications this year. I'll just read this. So as a state network of community supporters, we share the understanding that all children have a right to healthy food, regardless of race, class, or geography. We pursue farm to school work and systems change that makes food equity a reality for Iowa students. We recognize and help our partners name and understand the structural inequities and cycles of discrimination that reinforce issues we address, such as access to healthy food, opportunity for local producers, growing safe places to play and gather, student-driven projects and programs, teacher trainings and resources related to cultural relevance and experiential learning, and food service partnerships to enhance local and fresh options. The Farm to School work presents ample opportunities to organize systems change within schools that reinforce student leadership, collectivist culture, and inclusive learning. And food is the best way to take care of each other through all of this. So again, we'll be prioritizing presentations that come to us with a racial and social equity lens kind of at the forefront of how and why the work is happening, and that's natural to a lot of the farm to school work that's happening. So kind of these bullet points here are some explicit ways that that can show up in a presentation, and I'm happy to answer more questions about that as we move through this. So here's a few notes about what presenting will look like. So we'll have several 90-minute presentations. Last year, some were 60 minutes, and we've decided to make them all 90 minutes long this year. So please plan to fill that time and be sure that there are time for questions. We're asking that sessions be really interactive, and there's always the option to use slide presentations, but it's not required by any means. We're asking folks to consider co-presenting with other people who can share a variety of perspectives and experiences. Last year and likely this year, we'll have more presentation or more applications than rooms for presentations. So any collaborations that can happen across organizations or school districts that are working on similar projects are really great. And we understand there's challenges with sharing that time and kind of communicating everything beforehand, but it gets more voices in the room. We also value adult youth presenter teams that can speak about growing leadership skills, empowerment strategies, and to better describe building partnerships. We had several sessions with youth as presenters last year, and we're really looking for that again this year. The review committee will prioritize proposals that integrate a racial and social equity lens. Again, going back to that statement that I just read, this is also kind of mirrored in the way that the National Farm to School Network organizes the National Farm to School Conference. So really looking forward to seeing applications that center that. And I can point out a couple examples from last year that really brought that to the conference. And conference registration fees will be waived for presenters, and travel stipends may be provided upon request. So folks who are presenting are coming to Pella comped, and a lot of our fundraising work is going towards scholarships to make the conference as accessible to everyone as possible. So here's an overview of the 5 tracks that we are building out for content this year. Last year we had 3 tracks, that built out the whole day, and that was cafeteria, classroom, and community. And this year we're really excited to add a high school track that will be specifically directed toward high school students interested in attending the conference. We'll be doing some really directed outreach to high school student groups who are interested in local food systems and food justice work so that they can have their own kind of day that meets their needs. And then we're also having an early childhood track. So for the early childhood practitioners, educators, policymakers that really work with that younger audience, we'll have specific sessions for them. And then cafeteria, classroom, and community are the same as last year. So cafeteria will center on local procurement strategies, all types of federal and local nutrition programs that happen with schools, technical skills for food service staff, and really talking about strategies for getting kids excited about the food and sometimes the local food that's offered in cafeterias. Our classroom track will discuss farm to school curriculum, the best practices for connecting experiential learning around healthy food with existing standards in schools, cross-age teaching, and school gardens. And then our community track is really centered on how do you develop the partnerships and the coalitions at a school and community level that build farm to school into the way that the school and community function. So any partnerships with farmers, broader fundraising efforts, parents, caregivers, that's kind of the broad community track that we'll be filling out with some great sessions too. So this is just a quick rundown of the training space options. So as you're developing kind of in your brain what your session will look like, you can think about some of these awesome amenities that will be offered to us at Central College. So we'll have smart classrooms in Row Center. That will be the main training building for the full conference day. And that's picture a traditional classroom. We can move the desks around. There'll be projectors and speakers with really awesome recording capacity so that we can save and share all of the sessions that are offered there. There's also an outdoor garden space So if you're looking more at that classroom track, you can take your group outside. There are facilities and infrastructure that you might use to demonstrate different gardening activities or just make your session more interactive out there. And then there's also a kitchen classroom outside of the Rose Center and next to the garden space. That's really awesome, and I think might be particularly interesting for the cafeteria track. There's indoor seating, a demonstration kitchen, refrigerator, air conditioning, because this will be June. And so if you are considering demoing cooking with kids or sharing skills for food service staff to use in the cafeteria when prepping food, that kitchen classroom would be a great option. So here's a quick snapshot of what our conference looked like last year in terms of the presenters and the workshops that happened. So we had 15 proposals come in. Most of those were online applications. We'll be offering the online application and a paper application again this year. We had the 3 tracks and 9 sessions within those. And we had a ton of collaboration that happened last year. In total, we had 32 presenters on these 9 sessions. So about 3 people per session was the average. And that took a lot of coordination between different organizations or several folks from one school district who shared the time. Again, there was youth involvement, but we had folks from school districts, nonprofits, Iowa State Extension, other state agencies like the Department of Public Health and the Department of Ed present, and then tribal nation representatives. So that just gives a little bit of an overview of who showed up to present last year and who applied. And then these are the names of the sessions that were offered last year under those 3 tracks. So you can just look through those. We really have a flair for long session titles coming up at the conference. So when you do make your application to present, we'll ask you to put a title in and then understand that that can always change or be more defined or lengthened as you continue to develop your session. So the next couple of slides are just some tips for how to develop a really great session. And these, again, will be maybe more useful as you're sitting down and really plotting out what this 90-minute presentation would look like. But we're really going for high bar presentations here and presentations that mirror the things that we really love about farm to school lessons. So some of this might be kind of obvious to you, and some of it are just really great things to keep in mind that maybe you haven't thought of. So letting people know what they're in for at the beginning of your session. We will share session descriptions so that our attendees can make a really informed choice about what is super relevant to them during the day of the conference. But you could consider posting an agenda, session objectives at the beginning, taking folks outside, and for any sort of interactive activities that you're doing, whether it's cooking or gardening, make sure that you save time to make space for those activities. Mixing up the format. So this whole slide is just tips about how to make a really inclusive and interactive session proposal. So facilitation for different types of learning modalities, giving people the option to think independently, share out loud, talk with a partner, move around the room. Again, that's the stuff that we're working with educators on in farm to school lessons in school. So I think it's really important for us to model that at our conference. Making sure that there's space for reflection and questions. And that's a best practice for any educator during a lesson, that you want to make sure folks have time to think through what all of the new information that they've taken in, how are they going to apply it to their community or to their life, and have space to discuss that with other attendees. When you are sharing a session block with other presenters, make sure that you're mixing up who's speaking throughout the session, and kind of practice that a little bit so that you have enough time to get to everyone. So again, just some best practices there. There is definitely the option to provide handouts. Last year, we listed everything that folks handed out in the session online as well. So to save paper, if that's an option, you might consider that. We are able to support printing needs, so keep that in mind if there is a really essential document that you want folks to have a hard copy of during the time. We can support making sure that that's there for you. And then having a timekeeper. We will have a room support person in every session, but if you're presenting with a group, make sure someone's kind of keeping track of where you're at. And then these are just a go-to checklist for preparing your session. So asking questions throughout the session development process, thinking through and anticipating the needs of the audience who will show up to your session. So is there a clear sense of the objective, agenda, takeaways from the session? Has it been interesting and engaging? Is it clearly connected to the farm to school category that we selected? And we'll be engaged with folks throughout the process to make sure that the topic and the theme and the delivery of the session is really fitting the track, because we expect some folks to specifically want to follow a track throughout the day. Did you mix up the format of the session? Meeting the needs of different types of learners, and then meeting all of the deadlines in time to make sure that you have all of the materials. So this is an important one. This is our session development timeline. So today is January 23rd, and we're hosting this informational webinar. On February 1st, the proposal application will open officially. Again, we'll have an online Google survey that folks can fill out, as well as a paper option. You can print that and scan it, or you can fill it out on your computer as a Google Doc and share it, whatever works best. The application will close on March 1st, so that's a full month of February to get that in. And then as soon as we can in March, hopefully we're expecting about a week turnaround to notify all of the applicants of their status. So this puts us about a month ahead of where we were last year, and that gives folks more time to plan and more time to collaborate where there are more than one organization or people presenting, and gives us ample time to support everyone who has applied in really crafting a solid session. At the end of March, we'll ask that all of the session titles and descriptions are final and not drafts anymore, so that we can prepare some materials to share. This will be in a final agenda, and again, a session description document that we can use to promote the conference and get more folks there, because they'll know the awesome content that's been planned for the day. And then the planning committee will support y'all in the next few months of getting the final pieces of the presentation together, making sure that you have the materials and supplies that you need. And then on June 21st, we will have the conference with the workshops. So here's just a quick overview of what is actually on the application. It's a pretty simple application, but we do ask for what we feel is the most relevant information in making the decision of who will have space to present. So a draft name of the session and the best track that it fits into, that will be on there. We're asking for a brief session description between 8 and 15 sentences, and this is where as much as you can have priced out at this early in a session development, it's just useful for us to understand what are the central themes, the big picture topics of the session that you're applying to lead. A very basic 90-minute agenda breakdown, again, making sure that there's different types of facilitation listed in there. That will tell us how you're planning for your session to be interactive, how you incorporate time for reflection and questions, all of that. So just a couple of paragraphs to describe what the session will look like. We'll ask for the presenter or presenters' names, the organizations you're with, contact info. If you're open to sharing the presentation with another group, again, if we get more than one proposal in that is similar, or we think that, both of these sessions are, within a cafeteria track and have really, really important information to share, would these folks be interested in partnering up to share that 90 minutes? We'll ask you to say yes or no on that. And then if you plan to include youth in the presentation, how we really engage them from the beginning in defining what the session will look like, how will they be co-collaborators in developing it, and what will their participation on the day of the presentation look like? Because we really want to make sure that when we are involving youth, that they're engaged from the beginning and that they have lots of say in how the presentation looks on the day of. And then we'll ask you to select the session audiences, just to make sure that from the beginning we know that there's tracks that are really relevant for all of the different folks coming from different sectors at the conference. So here's another, save the date. We will be posting this on social media and on the Iowa State Extension website really soon, but want to make sure that anyone who's hoping to present is available on June 21st and ideally the 22nd as well. So please feel free to share this with the rest of your organizations, school districts, whomever. We're really hoping for great turnout this year, and again, we'll be doing more in-depth promotion really soon. And that's all for my slides, so I will stop sharing. If you have any questions right now or later, here's my email and my cell phone number. I'm happy to answer anything as this gets rolling, especially after the application opens on February 1st. So with that, yeah, we'll open it up for any questions, and I'll invite the other conference planners to answer anything that is broadly related to the conference.
This is a very basic question, but when you encourage us to invite youth to present, and there's a difference between youth and adult youth and that kind of thing, what does that mean? What's an adult youth?
We had broadly defined youth from, gosh, an 8-year-old to seniors in high school hoping to present last year. So I guess we don't have like a specific definition of youth and adult youth. If there are high school age.
12, yeah.
Yeah, I think if they're in like K-12 education or pre-K-12 education, who knows how young our presenters could be this year. We definitely invite them as youth presenters. And then also, if we have youth who are interested in presenting, but then also want to be a part of that high school track, we'll try to coordinate and make sure that they can figure out an agenda for their day that works for both.
Did you mention, are you going to be able to share these slides out?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, this is recorded, and I'll share the slides separately as well. Yeah, so as you pull your team together, if anybody missed this webinar and wants an overview, you can share any of this. Anything else? All right. Cool. Well, again, if things come up, feel free to send me an email or give me a call. We are really excited to get this process rolling and already dreaming of spring in Pella. Maybe Lynn, do you want to give a quick overview of just broadly what our conference will look and feel like? at Central College to get everyone
Sure.
excited?
Yeah, we are so excited to be working with the folks at Central. They are incredibly enthusiastic. They really courted us to come bring the conference there. And they are bending over backwards to accommodate, by creating, the options for space that will work best for the kind of community conversations that we want to have. So not just, theater where it's lecture style. We'll be able to record every single session this year from the classrooms, which will be just outstanding. Their culinary kitchen staff is excited about creating and using 100% local. So, I just think that's so cool that not only did they not balk at it, but they were excited to do that. So they get who we are as a group of people. So that's exciting. Janetta will work her magic again with the Saturday breakfast. And I guarantee anybody who comes to that will absolutely never want to miss it again, because it is both beautiful and tasty. I think an exciting thing we have for the second day is the opportunity for several different groups to get continuing ed credits: teachers, food service directors, dietitians, early child care practitioners. We hope that this is an opportunity for them to get kind of a double bang for their buck. And we know they're taking time away in their summers or from their jobs if they're an early child care provider. And we know they'll get something from all the workshop sessions, but we also hope to give them CEUs for those who can use that. We're going to have a filming. So we'll have the day-long conference, and we'll have lots of delicious food and wonderful sessions and plenaries, we're sure. I'm very excited. I also think there's a strong possibility that we'll be honoring and recognizing schools that are doing farm-to-school work with awards. Not monetary at this point, but they will certainly be held up as examples for others across the state, and we're excited about that. So we'll have the full day-long conference, and we'll just give people at the end of the day a chance to kind of go back to their rooms, maybe take a deep breath, throw their books on their bed, and then come back for a really wonderful social time that evening. Part of the reason we did that is the social time was fun last year, but it was the night before the event, and it's kind of like a bunch of people, we all just kind of went to our own little corners or groups, and it's like, hey, okay, I know you all talked to you, but we didn't mingle because we didn't know each other very well. So we think this will be a wonderful way to end the day. We're also going to be able to have adult beverages, and we hope to highlight some local breweries and wineries, so that should loosen people's tongues just a little. And then dinner will be on your own, but Pella is a lovely, wonderful little town. And so there are wonderful restaurants, and then we'll have a documentary screening of a film probably at 8 o'clock, and then allow people to get to bed at a decent time. Also, if people come in early the night before, Pella has this wonderful event on the square where they just kind of highlight things that are going on. And our co-hosts at Central are hoping that the theme will be farm to school that day. So if folks want to go downtown and hang out in downtown Pella, which is, again, lovely and a wonderful place to do that for shopping or eating or whatever, we're hoping that it will be farm to school themed, and we're really excited about that. So then we'll finish the day Friday with that filming, and then the next day get up and have, again, Janetta's wonderful breakfast, and then go into either field trips or intensives where you can come away with some training, for your field. And then send folks home in plenty of time Saturday to be home, hopefully for dinner or shortly thereafter, and probably collapse on Sunday. But we are just, the campus is beautiful. It's easy to get around. There will be handicap accessibility. There will be plenty of people on hand to help direct people. There will be signage. Again, we have all the technology that we could possibly want. We have incredibly enthusiastic staff and faculty that are working with us. So if you can't tell, I'm pretty doggone excited. This is really exciting. Nathan's developed wonderful marketing materials. They'll be finishing up soon. Central will be handling our registration and vendor sponsors. That's one thing I would throw out to you, as you can imagine, that, even with people donating a lot of time and space, things like food are expensive, and there are some other things. If you have any suggestions for folks who might want to support this conference, We really, really, really don't ever want money to prohibit one single person from coming. So our goal is to want to have, we'd love to have the opportunity to give up to half the people either travel or lodging accommodations. That's another thing I'll throw out. Lodging will probably be dirt cheap. I think it's around $35 to $40 per night, and we'll stay in really beautiful accommodations on campus that are, I think, a little above the typical dorm rooms. Still on college campus, but so simple, but very nice. But if anybody has any suggestions, you can let any of us on the planning team know, or we will have marketing materials if folks want to be a vendor or sponsor. A vendor is someone who would submit, $50 if they can for a table. Sponsors, we hope that we can find some folks who can throw bigger chunks of money. So anyway, yeah, if anybody has any ideas for us, we're always open to that, and we're happy to contact folks. So I think that gives a good overview, I think.
Is Sherry Doan on the planning committee?
She is our biggest champion. Yeah.
How many times has she said, "This is what we get to do"?
She is so wonderful. She's just, she has just kind of cleared the path and is unbelievable. So we're really excited.
Yes. Thank you, Lynn, for that overview. I get more excited every time you talk about it. So.
I know I kind of babbled, I think, a little bit, but I just get so excited too that I'm like, oh, this is going to be the best thing ever.
Yes.
Cool. All right.
Great. All right. Well, thanks again. We'll be sharing out this recorded webinar as well as the slides right away. Feel free to spread those. And yeah, come to us with questions. We'll be excited to see lots of really great applications that really build out what this conference is about over the month of February. Thanks, y'all.
Bye.
Bye.